Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Cynthia Stevens, and I'll be chairing the hearing this morning. Joining me from the Board of Revision is Ms. Valerie Verhoon and Mr. Kent Seelan. Our assessor this morning is Eric Gauthier, and our administrative personnel are Tristan Bradine and Fran Picotto. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant. Following the swearing in, we will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony, followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the Board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. This morning, we'll be hearing items 1, 3, 6, 7, 10, and 11. Ms. Picotto, please affirm the assessor and the first applicant's testimony. Thank you.
Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Eric Gauthier.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
That's to my knowledge, absolutely, yes.
Thank you. You may be seated. Ms. Applicant, please state your full name. That'll be Ms. Souza. Yeah.
I am Sandra Sousa.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yep, to the best of my knowledge as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Gauthier, Ms. Sousa. Ms. Sousa, I'm just going to, because on these residential hearings, I know you may have never done anything like this before, so I'll just go over because the intro is a little long. And so I'll go over for you a few of the points. We can't consider assessments of properties as market value. The Board cannot consider that. It has to be sales, and any sales or information regarding the property needs to be before April 1st, 2023, because that is the date that we look at. Anything after that is considered a post-reference. So just so you're aware of that. And when we come to your presentation, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. And you know, it does not have to be that formal process. If you have any questions, just go ahead and ask. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, did you have anything before we start? No. Okay, great. Mr. Gauthier, please proceed to read this property onto the record, and then you provide your presentation.
The subject property is roll number 110100250000, commonly known as 532 Matheson Avenue. It's located in the neighborhood of Jefferson. It's a two-story duplex built in 1954. We do have an effective year built of 1970 On the dwelling, we have 1,976 square feet of living space above grade. Does have a full basement with basement finish. We have one full bath. We have no half baths. Actually, I believe that would be inaccurate, so we'll have to double check that with the applicant, but if it's a duplex, it would have two full baths. So I think we have an error in our data there. So no half baths, no extra showers. We have central air conditioning, no fireplaces, no attached garages. We do have a detached multiple garage. I have the number of suites as 2 and total rentable bedrooms I have as 4. It's located on a plot of land that's 4,384 square feet. We do have a commercial influence. So you refer to the map for that. We have the 2025 proposed assessed value, which is pegged at an April 1st, 2023 market valuation date at 414,000. Today I'm presenting 3 comparables. Comparables 1 and 2 are located in the neighborhoods of Jefferson, and comparable 3 in the nearby neighborhood of Robertson. They're all 2-story duplexes built in the 50s. Comps 1 and 2 have some level of renovation, because we do have an effective age on them. Comparable 3, we do not have any effective age. The square footage is in a pretty tight range, so they're all pretty similar in size. At the low end, I have 1,996 square feet, and at the high end, 2,128 square feet. They all have a full basement with basement finish. All have 2 full baths. Comps 1 and 3 have a half bath. Comp 3 has an extra shower. They all have central AC. Note that comp 2 has a fireplace. No attached garages. Comps 2 and 3 do have a multiple detached garage. Number of suites is 2 for comps 1 and 2, and comps 3 has a 3rd suite. Rentable bedrooms, I have comp 1 is 4, comp 2 is 5, and comp 3 is 6 rentable bedrooms. Land varies between 5,318 at the low end and comp 2 at the high end, 7,195 square feet. They'll have some form of influences, negative influences like bus, commercial adjacent, traffic, etc. So I tried to pick comparables that were similar in that aspect. They all sold in 2021. So I have the sale prices ranging between 392,000 and 490,000, translating to a sale price per square foot range of 192 a square foot at the low end and 245 at the low end or at the high end, translating to a time adjusted sale price. So once we bring these 2021 sales to our reference date, so some of them it's almost 2 years forward, the time adjusted sale prices range between 415,000 at the low end and 493,000 at the high end. So that translates to a time adjusted sale price per square foot range of 199 at the low end and 247 at the high end. My recommendation is to maintain the current assessed value of 414,000 as supported by the comparable sales. Just a note that probably comp 2 should probably be adjusted for not having a garage. And also just kind of note that the time adjusted sale price, so the subject property sold in 2019 for 355,000. When you apply a time adjustment to that, comes in at about 426,000. So that also supports our model's value. That's it for my presentation. Is there any questions?
Okay, thank you. Ms. Souza, do you have any questions based on what the assessor has just presented? Do you have any questions for him?
Yeah, so I'm just a little confused. So we're looking at 2023, you mentioned.
That's the reference date. That's the reference date where any of the evidence that's presented has to come before that date. So any properties that are being presented for the sales reference need to be before that date, or any other information about the property needs to be before April 1st, 2023.
Okay, got it. So, I mean, the one thing that I would say about comp 2 is the lot size is significantly like 2,800 square feet more. So I didn't feel that that was a valid or fair comparison to our property in maybe in building size, but not definitely not in lot size.
Okay,
And
okay, Ms. Souza, can you, if you have a question related to that, this is a chance for questions, and you can provide that kind of information when you present your presentation. But do you have any questions for the assessor?
well, my question is, why would we have chosen that one when it's really not an apples to apples comparison?
Okay, thank you.
To answer that is quite simple. And the reason I only have 3 comps, I usually try to present more than 3, is because there were not any others available. But to answer your question, when it comes to land, basically, it's not necessarily about the size, but what you can do with it. Okay, so yes, it provides more yard space and there is added value there. Notice how that sale went for 400. Well, once you adjust it, it's at 493,000. So an adjustment could be warranted there. But typically these duplexes will trade on the type of rental income they can produce. So could you get more rent because you have a larger yard? Potentially. Is that substantial? I'm not quite sure. So I wouldn't be comfortable paying an adjustment on it, but it is a valid point. When you pick your comparables, when you have many to choose from, like if we were dealing with a bungalow in Windsor Park, I could really hone down and give you really clean comps. But when we're dealing with something like this, sometimes you end up empty-handed. Luckily, I had 3, so those are the 3 that I have. I tried to pick 1950s duplexes that were around the same size, but there's going to be slight differences. They can be adjusted for. That's just the way it is. If I had cleaner, better comps, then I would have used them. And I welcome them if you have them. We can definitely discuss them.
Okay, thank you. Just one additional question. Does your assessment follow the ethical standards of the Canadian Uniform Standard of Professional Appraisal Practice?
So that, I believe what you're referring to is actually the Appraisal Institute of Canada. So to answer that, I am not currently a member of the AIC. So to answer that question, I'm not bound by AIC rules at this point in time.
Okay. I have no further question. Let me just think. Sorry, one second.
It's okay, take your time.
Okay. I think I'm okay right now for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Werhoen, do you have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Assessor, you've got the effective year built at 1970. Have you been in that property?
I have not visited the subject property.
So to get your effective year, what would you have, why would you have come up with 1970?
So I didn't come up with 1970, that's what we have in our system. So what we do with effective year built is it's basically the best tool that we can find to differentiate between the houses that are original condition and houses that have been renovated. So I'll give you an example, I mean, just to kind of clarify what we're talking about here. So what we do is we look at the components of a property and we basically figure out, like, if you've renovated your kitchen, the value of that particular home should be higher than, say, next door where it's original 1950, right? If they both traded, let's say you have 2 identical bungalows in Windsor Park, okay? They're 1,000 square feet, they're the same layout, the same plan. The one on the left's been renovated top to bottom. We're gonna have an effective age on that once the permits are closed. And what it'll do in our system is the model will add value because it's more renovated, as it should, because this is what happens in the marketplace. What we used to do and what's ineffective is we used to put condition as, you know, fair, poor, average, good. The problem with that, what we've discovered over time, is that it doesn't wear off. So in 1990, we say, okay, this property is in really good condition. But then 20 years later, it's still in good condition. So what we've discovered is, for modeling purposes, the effective year built is much more accurate, because what it does is over time. So next year, if we pull this property up, the effective age will come down a hair. and it eventually wears off. So it's a much more effective tool, but it's basically the tool that we use to differentiate between a renovated dwelling and one that isn't. We do have a calculator that we use. So if you've done, say you've done the wiring, the plumbing, the roof, the windows, we can plug it into our calculator and give a reasonable estimate on the components of that house and how much weighting they would have on, say, the cost to construct that dwelling. So it's not a perfect tool, and I'd be lying to you if I said we had perfect data. We don't. There are renovated properties out there that we have as original because for whatever reason, they never pulled permits and we don't know about it. So we don't have perfect data across the board, but when we do have accurate information about the subject dwelling based on permits, or one of my colleagues may have visited this place 5 years ago, I'm not sure, then the effective year built should be accurate.
Okay, so you're saying, although you haven't visited the property, you're saying there are permits on that have been pulled on that property to show that there was renovation done to it?
Sometimes it's not permits. Sometimes what we do, part of what the work that we do is we'll review MLS sales. So if a sale comes through and we're reviewing it and we notice, hey, there's new floors, new windows, new electrical, new plumbing, and maybe we didn't know about it, but we'll update the property record appropriately based on the sale. So it's not always a permit. Sometimes we send questionnaires out. Sometimes we'll canvass an area, literally go door knocking, leave a questionnaire behind. Homeowner calls us back. We have a conversation. Sometimes we have private sales where the value is super high and we go, well, what's going on here? Like we have this property at 300,000 and it's sold for 500,000. So we would call the homeowner and they would say, well, I bought it from my friend at work and he's renovated it top to bottom. So in a case like that, we may add effective age and reassess the property accordingly because our goal is to be fair. And in order to be fair, you have to be as accurate as you can, and condition of properties, as you know, is an important factor.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan, any questions?
Yes, what's the commercial influence on this property?
You know what? I'd have to refer to the map. I'm actually not 100% sure. Someone may have to have Google Maps in front of them and they could check it out. But typically it would be like, it could be an apartment block beside it. Maybe the applicant can shed some light on that, but our model will bring down the value a little bit for these type of negative influences. But yeah, to be honest, I didn't pay attention to what it could be, but maybe the Madam Applicant, Mrs. Souza, could clarify what that might be. I'm not sure if it's based on the map here. What do I have?
Are you referring to the building on McGregor?
Yeah, I'm guessing just because I'm looking at the map here. I'm
There's
thinking
like
an apartment block
there.
or
Yeah.
it's close to McGregor, so
Mhm.
sorry, I guess here I'm squinting. It's close to McGregor, so it could be a storefront, an apartment block, a retail outfit that's close by.
Ms. Souza, are you able to clarify? What's
Yeah, can you
next?
guys hear me?
Yes, what's next to your property? Yeah.
It's not, it's like across the back lane, so the property faces north, but the it's like a fourplex. It used to be, I think, at one point like a commercial like property, but right now they have it as a fourplex. That's that big white spot, right, on the map?
Yeah, we would consider it an apartment building or a fourplex or a sixplex, like a commercial negative influence. So it's across the back lane, I guess, in this case.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that for us. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all. Any questions, Madam Chair?
Okay, thank you. And I think my questions have all been answered. So Ms. Souza, just give us a minute to pull up your presentation that you provided us.
Can I ask a question? One more
Sure.
question about the assessor?
Certainly. Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Did you consider, with the assessment value, did you consider any renovations that were done? Because I'm not sure what renovations you would be referencing, but if you can share, if that 414 in that comparison, were there any type of renovations, or was it, because when I do a comparison the condition of the properties that you compare to what our condition is at, I think is a lot lower for our condition. So was that considered in your 414 assessment?
Yeah, well, so once again, the effective age we have on the subject property is 1970. So notice that like comparables 1 and 2 have effective ages in the 70s. So I mean, start splitting hairs about 1 or 2 years. I guess you could. Comparable 3 would be, we have it as original condition, so, and it also supports the value. So, yeah, I mean, they're not hyper renovated because the effective age would be higher than that, and that's pretty typical. Like most landlords won't do up duplexes to like a super high degree of renovations because they're being rented out typically. So these, I feel like these are roughly in the same condition, like no major adjustments would be required. But there again, if you only come up with 3 comps and 1 is renovated, you don't just toss it out the window. If it's precious, you use it and you would factor that in or adjust for it or put less weighting on it. Sometimes we'll do that. Present a few comparables and say, well, comparable 1's a little more renovated and maybe we put less weight on it or keep that in mind and factor that in, right? So, yeah, there's different ways to address that, but long story short, I mean, the 2 first comps are also in the 1970s for effective age, so they would have a similar. So that could mean like maybe the wiring was upgraded at some point, or maybe a kitchen was done, we caught it on a sale, maybe kitchens and baths and floors were done. And so we would have updated that at some point. Or a
I
permit.
know for comp 2, there was significant renovations done on that property because we actually looked at it.
Yeah, well, like I said, we have it as 1977, so maybe a little bit more renovated. You could adjust it downward, so keep in mind that the time adjusted sale price on that one's 493,000. So even if you adjust it down 60 or 70,000, still supports the value of your property. So if you feel like that one is, you know, had a little bit more TLC, that's fair. You could apply a downward adjustment to compensate for that. So 60 grand probably get you a couple of kitchens in a duplex and maybe a bathroom. You know, depending how connected you are, how handy you are, or sometimes it's who you know. But yeah, so these are not all identical properties. I'm gonna shoot straight with you. It's there are some differences in location, there are some differences in land size, there are some differences, but I welcome any cleaner comps or any better. I searched high and low and this is all I could come up with. I couldn't even present a 4th comparable, so that's where we are. Right, do the best we have with the information that we can gather.
Okay,
Fair enough.
Questions?
okay, Ms. Souza, you can go ahead and provide your presentation. I noticed that you do have some there are some assessed values here, which I already mentioned we can't consider, and the sales that you provided before we get going, do you know the date of these? Are they after April 1st, 2023, these sales?
I have to confirm, but let me see. They were provided to me from my realtor.
Okay,
So that's fine. I mean, some of them may have been last year, which was 2023. Most of the comps. So what I did is I compared what they had given me, what my realtor had given me to what they were sold at, and then what their current assessment value is.
okay, yeah, and the assessed value we can't use either. It's unfortunate that you went to all this trouble, and I apologize that we can't take this into consideration, but I know you do have quite a bit of other information. The condition of the property, etc., would certainly be of interest to the board. So why don't you go ahead and present us with some of that and any other information you think would help us make a decision?
Sure. So I do have a previous appraisal. The appraisal was done in and around the same time as the comps for what you guys have provided for the 2021. So when I looked at the appraisal, so we got this property appraised in 2021 as well, and the comparables that are in the appraisal were very close to the same time. Yours were maybe a little bit newer, but they all ranged, and the property appraisal came in at $380,000. So we clearly know that the property isn't worth what the $41,000 more than what the previous assessment was. So the 414, that's where we felt it wasn't fair. We felt that we were appraised at 380, so I didn't feel that it was a fair assessment. All of the property comparables that we have, there's they're all duplexes that are in the appraisal. I did provide the information. So all of them were duplexes. They all ranged from 366,000 to 392, which is essentially what they used to come up with the $380,000 value. I will share a little bit about the conditions, since we can't really go into so just a little comment about the income and expenses. This property has two units. They do have the two bedrooms. The upper unit, we did paint and just refinish the hardwood floors. We've had a couple turnaround tenants, so we have been able to raise the rental slightly. But we did, the bottom unit has not changed since we purchased it. We did, as far as conditions of the property, again, upper unit, we did some painting, refinished the hardwood floors. I did provide some pictures. Unit A, there's no change. They were pretty heavy smokers and continue to be in our renters to this point. They were kind of grandfathered in, so most of the condition of the unit is the same. There was a new roof put in, and then we refinished the front steps for safety. The roof was in really poor condition by the time we got to it, so it's pretty much brought it back to where it should be from a current state perspective, or where it should be from a value perspective. We also did put 2 new furnaces and AC, central air, and cut down a couple trees. So that's the extent of our upgrades that we've done. It was really more of a necessity to bring the value of the property back to where it should be at $380,000. I think from the other thing I just wanted to mention that we just felt that the property analysis was really determining. So I guess now, after listening to the thing, we really felt that it was cherry picking the duplexes that were sold the highest in order to inflate our property assessment. And we didn't think that that was fair. If there was only 3 comps, our assessment also has another 3 comps. And even if we were to take the comps from that you guys found compared to what our appraisal shows, it still wouldn't average out at 414. And again, the condition of the properties, I think, were definitely not comparable as well. So I just kind of wanted to share that. I really truly believe that the property is still going to be assessed in and around 380,000 based on the condition, the rent, and the current state of the property. We have full intentions of updating things as things are needed, and later on, if we do, if we are able to update the property, to increase the value even more. We have no issue with obviously paying. We have fully support in paying taxes and being able to share and contribute to the well-being of the community, and making sure that we can help improve, the public system and our property value, because obviously we are in we value our properties and we want to make sure that our tenants in are good homes, but we can only do so much with the income that we get as well from the properties. So I think that's so yeah, we felt that $41,000 was pretty excessive for an increase in assessment.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Gauthier, any questions?
Yes, first of all, thanks for providing the appraisal. It's very helpful. I noticed the appraisal date is March 24th, 2021. So that's 2 years prior to our reference date. My question is basically just, are you aware that that area and market region increased 11% over that 2-year span? So call it 5.5% a year. Once you apply a time adjustment to your appraisers, 380,000, I'm coming in at 422,000. So you're aware that the value of 380 is on a specific date, which is March 24th, 2021, and not April 1st, 2023, and the market was ramping up in those 2 years. So that being said, do you still feel like that you know, once you apply a time adjustment, that our value is still off?
Absolutely. They're going to look at the condition of the property. The current assessment shouldn't be on unrealized gains. We shouldn't be increasing our income tax, like our properties based on income. Like, so we haven't sold the property. We purchased it at $355,000. So when we got it assessed, we're now assessed in 2021 at $380,000. So why am I going to apply these unrealized gains to my property assessment just to increase my taxes? That's completely a huge burden, financial burden on taxpayers and on myself.
I have another question. Thank you for answering that. So you mentioned you did the roof after purchasing it. Couple of ACs, a furnace, steps, refinished some hardwood floors. Is that correct?
So
How much do you think ballpark you would have spent after purchasing the property?
So all the renovations have been done within the last 2 years. I'm not sure that we should consider it if you guys are all considering everything done prior to.
The Municipal Assessment Act states current condition. So it's current condition of the
Then
property.
why can't we accept the comps that I've provided if it's based on current condition?
The current condition, but as of April 1st, 2023, and I'll give you an example of why that is. The reason that is if you construct a new home and it's finished today, so you just finished brand new house, we're going to assess it in today's current condition, which is a brand new house, and we will peg the value as if it had sold in the marketplace on April 1st, 2023. So that's why the Act states that it is current condition, but the valuation date is April 1st, 2023, meaning that you cannot use sales data after that point, but it is current condition of the home. So if your home burns down today, it's land value because it's today's condition, but the valuation date is April 1st, 2023.
But even so the roof in the condition that it was just brought it back to where it should be. So it didn't not necessarily add a whole bunch of value, right? Same with the stairs, stairs costed like.
If I'm visiting your home, and I'm shopping for a house and I see a blown roof on a dwelling, which I actually just purchased a house with a blown roof, and luckily I have a couple of friends that are roofers, so for me it was okay, but I definitely factored that in when I purchased it. So, but I do agree that maybe a roof doesn't add dollar for dollar. If you spend 10-15 grand on a roof, it doesn't mean your value jumps 15 grand. Probably not, because most people expect a roof to be in decent condition, but it can impact the value. I'm just asking a simple question, ballpark figure, how much do you think you spent since you purchased it?
Well, the roof was, so maybe between the roof and the furnaces and the AC, $20,000. And paint and refinish hardwood floors was I don't know, 2,000. So I'm going to say $20,000.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Seelan, any questions?
One question for the applicant and one redirect question for the assessor. The first question is just for confirmation, what is the price of their assessment value for you with this property? And I'm just confirming.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, the first one is for the applicant, and I just want to confirm what the fair assessment for this property is for you. What is a fair assessment value? And this is just a confirmation.
I think the fair assessment would be no more than $380,000. I think the 373 in 2023 was still pretty fair, but I don't feel that it increased $41,000, and I feel that's very excessive. And I think that it should be probably assessed close to what we've previously appraised it for.
Thank you. Madam Chair, just to redirect to the assessor if I can.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Assessor, with respect to the time adjusted price based on this property and having properties within the area increased by 11%, what would be the time adjusted price of this property?
So I provided that in my brief. So they paid 355, but the appraiser on that purchase said, hey, you paid 355, but it's worth 380. So keep that in mind. But even if you just use 355, I plugged it into our model, and basically it was time adjusting it at 426,000.
426?
420.
So I just want to correct, because the appraisal was done in 2021. When we purchased the property, we purchased it for 355, but it was appraised at the time at 350 when we purchased it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the 380 was 2 years later.
Okay.
Okay.
So yes, that is correct, because 2019 was the sale price. So if you just use 355 that they paid in 2019, and you time adjust that to bring it to a reference date, and keep in mind, these are average increases in the area. So I'm not a huge fan of like putting my hand in the fire and saying that like every single property in the neighborhood. And you know, the reason I say this is I had the new construction in the southeast. And during this period, we had the cost of construction skyrocket. So the new properties actually went up a lot more than other properties. So for example, we would say, well, in Market Region 8 went up 12% over 2 years. But it's a little bit misleading, because to be specific, the new construction went up 20%. So when I'm saying 11%, I'm saying globally, if you take the average of all the buildings and all the residential properties in Market Region 3, which is a large region, in aggregate, the average increase was about 11% over 2 years. So if you want to use that for your time adjustment, which typically we'll do, but just keep in mind that like vacant land, for example, went up a lot more than 11%. Okay, new construction went up a heck of a lot more than 11%. So you have to be careful with that time adjustment. But in this particular case, I'm comfortable using it, but I caution it's not always accurate.
Thank you. That's all my questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Verhoeven, any questions?
No, it was just answered. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And my questions were answered as well. So Mr. Goche, any need for summation on this property?
No, I think everything's pretty clear here. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Souza, any final words you'd like to say about your property?
No, I think everything was shared.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and you'll receive a notification of our decision in the mail. So thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is number 3, which is 319 Hudson.
We have no communication for that item, Madam Chair.
Okay, so let's move that to the bottom of the agenda, and if you do hear from someone, please let me know as we go along, okay?
Certainly.
Okay, so following that, the next item on the agenda is item number 6, which is 149 Eastgate.
Yes. Oh, We just admitted it.
Hello,
Hello,
hear me?
with applicant. We're just about ready to begin with your item 6.
Okay, good morning. Is it Ms. Ziffarelli? Is that right? Am I
Correct? Yes.
pronouncing it correct? Okay, thank you very much. Thanks so much for joining us. So we're just going to have our administrative personnel swear you in, and then we'll get started.
Sure.
Right, Ms. Applicant, please state your full name.
Dawn Zaffarelli.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us. What's going to happen here is the assessor is going to present first, and then you'll be able to ask the assessor questions. The board members will have questions, and then we will turn it over to you to make your presentation. And then the assessor will be able to ask you questions, and then we'll ask you questions. So that'll be the order of how it works, okay?
Okay, can I just ask a question on the questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
I had sent a note last night because of course I received yesterday the assessor's report, and so I gathered some additional details, and we'll have opportunity to remit those in addition to possibly discussing some of them.
Okay, okay, so what kind of information is it? Sorry, can you just clarify that again?
Yeah, so I captured images of some of the comparable properties that he has, so pictures of those properties, and then grabbed some pictures of my own properties for reference as well to support the comparable, and then also a further letter from a real estate agent addressing the evaluation at the assessment date, because I had included information from the realtor based on post period, because I did try to sell the properties this year.
Oh,
and so
okay, so
believe that it was not
okay.
admissible is why, so I'm just speculating, but I gathered some other information.
Okay, okay, if you could, I think we'll just take a quick recess to decide if we will hear the late evidence. So if we could just go into recess quickly, and we'll be right back, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Applicant, I would just request that you email that evidence to our general inbox, the email that you'll have received
Okay.
the exchange from. Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I will leave the room.
Yes, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to call the meeting back to order. The panel has deliberated regarding the late evidence by the applicant, and we have agreed to consider that. So when we get to your presentation, we'll make sure we have it in writing on our screens, and then we'll proceed. So, but first, let's get the property read onto the record, and Mr. Gauthier, please do that, and then proceed with your presentation.
So the subject property is roll number 1209-1693-100, commonly known as 149 Eastgate. It's located in Armstrong Point, which is also known as the Gates. The two-story duplex, built in 1949, we have no effective age on the property, or on the dwelling, I should say. The living area is 1,768 square feet. We have a full basement with no basement finish. We have 2 full baths, no half baths, no added showers, no central AC, no fireplaces, no attached garages, no detached garages. I have the number of suites as 2 and number of rentable bedrooms as 4. It's located on a sizable piece of land, 16,616 square feet on the Assiniboine River. We have the 2025, our model value for the 2025 assessment, which is based on the April 1st, 2023 market value, is pegged at 592,000. Today I'm presenting 4 comparables. Unfortunately, none of them are in Armstrong Point. The neighborhoods that I have here is McMillan, Wellington Crescent, North River Heights, and Wolseley. They're all 2 stories, duplexes that are built in the 1940s and 1950s. Note that we do have effective age. So comp 1, we have 92, comp 2, 78, comp 3, 66, and comp 4, 69. So these definitely have some renovations. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find very many that were dated. Comp 4, though, I reviewed the pictures on MLS and it is quite dated. So I would say it's probably condition-wise the most similar to the subject in that regard. Square footage range, fairly tight. I've got 1560 on the low end and 2028 on the high end. Notice I have provided some adjustments for the size of the dwellings. They all have full basements. Note that comp 2 and comp 4 have basement finish. So there was adjustments provided for those differences. Full baths range between 1 and 2. Half baths range between 0 and 2. The added showers I have that range between 0 and 2. Comps 1, 2, and 3 have central air conditioning, so an adjustment was provided for that. None of the comps have fireplaces. None of them have attached garages. Note that comparables 3 and 4 have multiple detached garages. I've provided adjustments that reflect older multiple detached garages. Number of suites is 2 across the board. Total rent bedroom. I say rentable bedrooms. I do in this particular case because they're duplexes. What I do is I look and see if it has the egress window and they've plugged it on MLS as a bedroom. For rental purposes, I've been adding up. That's what that number means. It means the total bedrooms that could be rented legitimately. So the lot sizes are all much smaller than the subject. I had a lot of difficulties providing an adjustment for the land. I do know my land values on the river in a lot of different areas in Winnipeg. Unfortunately, in Armstrong Point is a very unique area, and I was unable to find vacant land sales. So I provided, to the best of my ability, a very conservative, and I want to stress that, a very conservative adjustment for location and land of 100,000 to my comps. So you'll notice that they all have some sort of influence, whether it's traffic, bus, commercial adjacent. Once again, the commercial adjacent might just be an apartment block next door, or it could be more substantial. So I encourage maybe to Google map it and see what those are. The sales took place in the earliest sale I have is late 2020, and the, I guess, most recent sale would be December 2022. So the sales range wildly here. I typically don't like to see this much of a range, but it is what it is. The low end I have 465,000, at the high end a whopping 780,000. Providing a price per square foot range that's also quite large. At the low end, I have 234 a square foot, and at the high end, I have 409 a square foot. Time adjusted sale prices. So when we bring these sales to our reference date of April 1st, 2023, the time adjusted sale price range is between 438 at the low end and 802 at the high end. I provided a total adjusted sale price. So once the adjustments are applied, the land adjustments, the square footage adjustments, I just wanted to caution that comps, particularly comp 1 and 3 are substantially renovated, while comparable 2 was kind of in average condition and comparable 4 was very dated. So after further review, I know originally in my brief I've said that I recommend maintaining the value. After further review, I actually feel like comparable 4, I would like to put more weighting on it, and I would like to change my recommendation to reducing the value to 480,000, so at the low end of the range. Yeah, so once you factor in the renovations, which I did not provide an adjustment for here, that's why I'm cautioning you with this, and then I feel like comparable number 4 being very dated like the subject. Once it's adjusted for location, the garage, the size, and the basement finish at 482, that's kind of where we should be with this. So I'm recommending to drop the value to 480,000, the low end from the 592 that our model came up with. And by the way, this is a very unique property and it's very it's a very difficult one to say anything with certainty. So I welcome any questions or discussions.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Zeffirelli, so the assessor is offering to drop the value, the assessed value of your property from 592 to 480,000. Do you accept that recommendation?
No, I'd like to.
Okay, you want to proceed? Okay,
Yes, please.
thank you. Okay, anything further, Mr. Gauthier?
No, that's it for my presentation. So welcome any questions.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, can I just confirm with Tristan and our administrative personnel, did we swear Ms. Zeffirelli in? We started talking about, we did?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, thank you. We just started talking about the late evidence and I couldn't recall whether we actually did it or not before you proceed with your presentation. Okay, so, or your questions. So Ms. Zeffirelli, do you have any questions for Mr. Gauthier?
I do. And so I just wanted to discuss more, if I could, the evaluating the value of the land, because as Mr. Gauthier noted, challenging because of it's a river lot. I'll note it's 44 feet wide only, so it's quite a narrow lot. In particular for that neighborhood, half of what is more typical on the river. And it has a shared driveway, so the houses
Okay,
don't.
okay, so can you rephrase that in the form of a question? You'll be able to present your evidence
Sure.
when we get to your
Okay,
presentation,
yeah,
but right now it's questions for the assessor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So on the determining the incremental value of the property, how is the heritage designation factored?
Yeah, well, that's a tough one. The building itself is not, so I did some reading. There was a 211-page document
Yeah.
that I skimmed through yesterday
Mhm.
From the city of Winnipeg zoning and planning. To my knowledge, the area in Armstrong Point, so the idea behind the heritage status in Armstrong Point is to not destroy the feel of the neighborhood. So it's different than these heritage buildings, say like downtown, where there's a lot more restrictions on what you can do to a specific building. So there, what they're trying to do is keep the neighborhood feel and look. So you can do renovations. My understanding is the renovations can be done to the interior, and on the outside, you would need sort of consultation and permits. I tried to figure out if you could demolish the house, and it wasn't clear to me whether you could or not. My understanding is that possibly you could, but then when you reconstruct, you would definitely need something that's appropriate for the neighborhood, and something that would fit in with the surrounding area and the norms that were constructed back in the day. So it does pose some challenges for redevelopment, that's for sure. But Armstrong Point is a very desirable neighborhood. And to say that the land is worthless or worth the same as, land on Academy, I don't think is fair. So it's challenging. I don't know, I can tell you what land value is on Kingston Row, on South Drive. I can tell you what land value is on Lyndale Drive, like at the tip of my fingers. But if you ask me what is a river lot worth in Armstrong Point, I just scratch my head and I go, well, I don't know. But I do know that you would be really hard pressed to find a vacant piece of land just about anywhere on the river in Winnipeg for $350 to $400. You'd be hard pressed. There are some exceptions to that, if they're unserviced or in less desirable areas, but generally speaking, it's so I feel like an adjustment is warranted. That's why I went easy with the $100,000, because I'm not comfortable with more than that, because I don't know for a fact and I can't provide evidence to this board in regards to the adjustment for the land. I wish I could, but I can't, and I feel like it's unfair to just say, well, it's par with the rest. So it's kind of where I'm at. I don't know what else to say on it. Because it is in a very desirable, it is on the river, it is a substantial lot. So something needs to be adjusted for when we're comparing with the other duplexes for sure.
So I can confirm you cannot demolish the house. You cannot
Okay.
turn it into vacant land.
Okay.
And so the idea that real estate as a developable lot is not possible.
Okay.
And so just wanted to be clear on that, and that is under the heritage bylaws.
Okay.
How did you factor in the homelessness in the, like, adjacent to the property, and significant homelessness surrounding there, and the relative level of crime in that neighborhood, which would be comparable to West Broadway?
So when it comes to homelessness and crime, it's pretty widespread across the city at this point. The other thing is typically what I tell people about that is, like, if we have comps in the same neighborhood, and I get that, you know, Lipton, Academy, McMillan is not in Armstrong Point. I wish I had comps in that area. I don't, and I welcome anyone who has them. I don't think you will have them, but the homelessness situation is I saw homeless people at the corner of Dakota and Abinogi McKenna by the St. Battelle Mall the other day, encamped on a corner, and I was just blown away. So it's a problem that's occurring all over the place, not specific to Armstrong Point. It's happening so I actually bike to work every day, and underneath the bridge at Norwood in the Norwood Flats, there's a massive encampment now there too. So these problems are kind of widespread.
Well, so I think, Mr. Goche, the question I think was, is that
did I
factored
factor
into
in
the assessment?
homelessness and crime? No.
No, okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm not sure if this is how I'm supposed to, but I would note that the fact that you can't develop and certainly cannot vacate the land to use it as land, despite it being a river lot, should be weighed as well as the.
Okay, yeah, again, that would be part of your presentation.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, do you have any questions for Mr. Goche?
I do. And so you adjusted value based on square footage, and you used a factor of $150 per square foot versus an average value per square foot of the properties of 250. And so why did you use 150?
So you're adjusting, so these global prices per square foot are all encompassing.
Mhm.
And I will caution this board, and I will caution anyone who's willing to listen, that is, when you're providing adjustments, you shouldn't be using global prices per square foot, because that's encompassing land and everything else. So what you do is you pinpoint, what is the garage worth if you're gonna adjust for a garage? What is the square footage worth if you're gonna adjust for square footage? And you isolate those particular factors for your adjustments. And you know, where you get these numbers, there's a lot of time and experience, paired sales analysis. Sometimes I'll query our model to see what the value is for price per square foot of a dwelling or an out structure. Another way is to strip out the land value and come up with a depreciated price per square foot for the improvements. This is very, very intense, high level appraisal theory here, but 150 a square foot is pretty reasonable. If you strip out the land on most of these comps, like on Academy, and you say, well, the land's worth about, say, 200,000, you're left with the dwelling that's depreciated, you can come up with a reasonable adjustment. I don't think 150 is way out of line. But I also, you know, want it to be fair and adjust for this so that I can come up with a more refined value. And I don't provide adjustments on all of my briefs, because typically my comps are fairly close and don't require adjustments, but in some cases I do provide them.
Okay, and for the basement, the value of finished house in the basement, you applied a value of $31 per square foot. And so why so low for that?
So as far as basement finish for older dwellings, I typically adjust 30 a square foot. For new, keep in mind that a basement finish is not finished to the same level as your main floor. So you would notice difference in adjustments. Typically on new construction, on a brand new house for basement finish, I'll adjust up to 50 a square foot. But for an older dwelling that's got some depreciation for basement finish, a typical adjustment would be about 30 a square foot. I do round my numbers, by the way. So you'll never see an adjustment of mine to the dollar or whatever. So you're coming up with 31. I could tell you I didn't use 31, I used 30 and I round typically.
Okay.
Did I make a mistake? Maybe. My math is actually not my strong point. So I've made mistakes before. But yeah, about $30 a square foot is typical.
When you looked at comps, I did some follow-up research on comps, and 294 Ash Street would be in in the period and appears to be very comparable to the property. And did you contemplate that property?
294 Ash, I didn't come
Yeah.
across it, so it's a duplex?
It's duplex, yeah, similar era, similar age.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, I typically don't present more than 4, so what I do, I kind of have a filtering process. So the first thing I would have checked in Armstrong Point was I would have just polygon mapped, I would have gone on MLS and been like, give me every sale, because there's not that many. And then I would have said, give me any duplexes, and it would have been like, tough luck, buddy, you don't have duplexes. So then, okay. So like I said, this is, as far as challenging is concerned for an appraisal, this is a 10 on 10, absolutely very challenging property. So then you're stuck with finding other duplexes and then adjusting for location. And that's where it gets difficult, because typically when I adjust for location, I say, well, what's my land value on the subject and what's my land value on the comparable? I can tell you that I have a general idea of what McMillan, Academy, Cambridge, and Lipton, the land value there roughly is, but I have no idea what a 16,000 square foot piece of land on the river in the gates is worth, because we just don't have that data. So it's tough, and I'm being very conservative at 100K. It could be substantially more, to be honest, but I don't know and I can't substantiate that. So I'm gonna leave it to this board to guesstimate.
Okay,
See what they think, but
so the comps that you used 512 McMillan, and then in your notes, you indicated that it is extensively renovated and should be considered an outlier sale. And so
Correct.
then I interpreted it as disregarded. And is that the
Yeah.
correct way?
honestly, I am comfortable with disregarding it, and I'll tell you why. I look at this, okay, and I see potentially a sale that does not meet the standard of the definition of market value. So part of the definition of market value is 2 informed parties that are acting rationally. And once in a while, we come up with something where we go, boy, oh boy, someone was misinformed or someone wasn't acting rationally here. So that's why I'm very cautious. I used it because I don't have a lot of duplexes to choose from, first of all. And I did note that it was an outlier sale, and you can see it in the price, right? Like, I feel like they way overpaid for this, and I'm comfortable saying that, like, I'm putting little to no weight. And you'll notice I changed my recommendation to put it at the bottom of the range, not at the top. So I am being fair that way as well too. But yes, I feel like that sale, something went wonky there. Like, maybe someone uninformed from another city came and didn't do their research, didn't have good counsel. Maybe didn't hire someone competent to help them with the sale. I don't know. I'm scratching my head thinking they got soaked on it, so.
Okay. Can I just ask another clarifying question perhaps for
Sure.
you? I don't know if it's an appropriate time. And so in what I submitted, I also had a valuation based on it as a income property, which I followed the city's guide for doing that modeling, and you didn't apply that.
Yeah, so there's really good reasons why. So one of the things that I don't know if you were aware of, but we do not use the income approach to come up with our values for duplexes, triplexes, all the way to fourplexes. In my opinion, fourplexes is where we should shift gears, but we actually shift gears to use the income model. Believe it's 5 or 6plex, okay? And there's very good reasons for that. And I caution using the income approach on duplexes, and let me explain to you why that is. So when I use the income approaches and our data that we have, the ones that you're referring to in your brief, when I use that data on duplexes, I come up with values that are way lower than what the market is showing me. And the reason for that is because I think what's happened in the past, well, is that people are buying these duplexes and paying a premium to live on one side and rent out and subsidize their mortgage by renting out the other. So there's a new market participant, well, maybe not so new, but there's a market participant for these duplexes. Not every time, but a lot of times pushing the price up. Somebody who's willing to live in it and rent the upstairs and have a low mortgage payment. So when I apply the income approach to these duplexes, I come up with values that are really short. So I would use the income approach typically fourplex and up. Down from that, you could use it and then maybe also look at comparables and see. So the proper way, like if you're an AIC trained appraiser, they're gonna say a property like this should have 3 approaches to value. You would use the income approach, you would use the cost approach where you come up with the land value. Well, good luck with that on Armstrong Point, but sure, you come up with your land value, you come up with your cost to construct the dwelling, and then you depreciate the assets. So you depreciate the dwellings that are on there, and you have your cost approach, you have your 3 approaches to value. So like in the last hearing, or the last one on the docket we had, there was an appraisal. If you come through there, all 2 or 3 of the approaches of value will be provided. So I caution on using the income approach on duplexes because I find that it's misleading. And it also does not factor in things like land. So in this particular case, it's very misleading because you're saying that, well, if the income of a property in the north end, duplex in the north end is similar to my property in Armstrong Point, the values should be the same based on the income and the expenses. And I would caution that location is very important in real estate, and to ignore that, your valuation conclusions will be off.
But don't you think the rent that you'd get in a more desirable location is stronger, and therefore the income from the property is stronger? That it would adjust inherently, it would adjust because it's
Typically,
value.
yes. So if you, but it's shocking to me because I've done these income approaches on fourplexes in some of the most awful neighborhoods that we have in our city. And it's shocking to me that if you pay just a little bit more in rent, just a little bit more, that you could end up in a much better neighborhood, and the spread.
Okay, I'm gonna maybe stop this here just because I think we're getting into a theoretical discussion rather than the city. Just to clarify, Mr. Gocha, you're saying the city does not use the income approach on any 2 resident duplexes, correct? 2-unit duplexes?
Our model value is not basing it, it's basing it on comparable sales.
Yeah, so it's not that the city doesn't, the city's model doesn't take the income approach into account for these properties. So that's just the way they do it.
Yeah, that answers the question. Thank you.
Yeah, rather than getting into the theory of it
And so that wasn't clear to me, and that wasn't clear to me in the guide. And so did I misread the guide, or is the guide not clear on that a duplex does not classify as a income property?
You know, honestly, you may have been misled. I'm not sure that it specifically says we use this starting at this many suites, and you know, maybe the city should. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that.
Like I personally know because I work in residential, so I know what when we use it and when we don't, but it may have been misleading to you and maybe been unclear at what point we start using that. But I would say it's more for apartment blocks than it is for a duplex.
Okay.
Any further questions or?
No, I'm
No,
good.
okay, thank you. Ms. Verhoen, any questions for the assessor?
None at this point. Thank you, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you. And Kent, do you have any questions for the assessor?
No questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, and I don't either because we had a very fulsome and informative discussion there. So thank you both. Ms. Zaffarelli, I think we'll just, before we proceed, just see if your information is in our system. Tristan or Fran, is it there?
It should be if you refresh.
Okay.
Yes, sir. If you refresh the SharePoint. It'll be under the item number and then
It's under the item number. Great. Oh, the one that's 22 minutes ago.
applicant brief to.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Just wait before we make sure we all have it here, including the assessor.
Trying to speed read, but it's also not my strong point. But
Okay, so Ms. Zaffarelli, does this replace your previous information or are you going to be using both of them?
No, it would be supplementary.
It's supplementary. Okay, we'll just make sure we have your other piece of information available as well. Okay, does everybody have it?
I do.
Okay, panel members, do you both have both pieces of the presentation? Okay, thank
Yes.
you. Okay, Ms. Zeffirelli, please proceed with your presentation.
Okay, and so really, covered some of it in talking with the assessor of, my main concern is the consideration of the lot and the location of the property. And so the supplementary opinion that the Realtor provided addresses that as well. And so I tried to sell this and the neighboring property earlier this year, and provided information in my original submission on that, and it was listed at $599,000, actively marketed to developers, 25 in total.
Okay, so this is post-reference information, so we can't consider that
Okay,
in our deliberations. So yeah, so maybe just talk to us about the condition of the property and some of the other information that you have here regarding comps and things like that, as long as they're within the reference period.
Sure. So the letter that I provided to you, I think, speaks for itself as far as addressing the perspective on the value of the lot based on its location, and specifically the heritage designation on it. And then I provided images of both of these properties. So 149 and 151 are mirror properties. They share a driveway and effectively share the lot in the two properties. And so I just provided some images of the interiors across the properties to give a perspective of age and condition, well maintained, not upgraded at all. And so I agree with Mr. Gauthier that 73 Lipton would be the most consistent comparable based on the age, condition, size, look, feel of the house. Even the style is very similar, and the location very similar. So I agree with that. And then on the other comps, the McMillan one, like already discussed, that doesn't apply. And then the Academy comp as well. I would just note it's 2.5 years pre cutoff of April 1st. It's from November 2020, which feels out of date to me. And so then the two comps of 555 Cambridge, which is heavily renovated, and I've included pictures of it as well. And you can see it is fully upgraded. It has pot lightings. It's got, per the details that I got from the listing, all upgraded wiring, all new stainless steel appliances, brand new kitchen, etc. And then the 73 Lipton, as well as my research, I had 294 Ash Street, which would be a comparable as well. And so I feel that the property value of $440,000, which would versus the assessor's $480,000, that would agree with the Realtor's assessment. And so it gives some attribution to the value of the lot, but for a 44-foot lot, the property has a single shared driveway for the two properties and a gravel parking pad behind in the yard, which makes them not even, like, one of them doesn't even have a driveway, and it's only got front street, of course, because it's on the river. So it's not realistically even separable from the other. And given the heritage as well as the location, I think that the incremental property values is not realistic. It's a 44-foot wide lot. So all of that square footage comes from depth. There's a picture in that section on it. And the restrictions to develop the properties are significant.
Okay, and is that your presentation?
That's my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Gauthier, do you have any questions?
Not really. I think everything's, well, pretty clear, but not not obvious. But yeah, I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Werhoen, do you have any questions?
None, Madam Chair, thank you.
Mr. Seelan, do you have any questions?
No questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
And I just want to clarify the heritage designation issue. So you said that this property cannot be demolished.
Accurate.
Okay. thank you. That's all the questions I had. Okay, and Mr. Goche, any need for summation on this property?
Well, basically, I just want to reiterate that the location of the land should be factored somehow. I'm not exactly sure how to factor it, but I think it's important, and I think it should be part of the decision. That's basically it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Farrelly, do you have any final words on this property?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much, both of you. So we'll move on to item number 7 on the agenda, which is 151 Eastgate. And again, let's just make sure everybody's got this pulled up. And Mr. Goche, please proceed to read this onto the record and with your presentation when you're ready.
Basically, it's going to be a repeat, so we're all going to have a little deja vu here, but
Okay, yep.
the neighboring property quite identical to the last one on the docket, but it's roll number 1209-1695100, commonly referred to as 151 Eastgate. It's located in Armstrong Point, also known as the Gates. 2-story duplex built in 1949. It's in fairly original condition. We have 1,768 square feet, a full basement, no basement finish. I have 2 full baths, no half baths, no added showers, no central AC, no fireplaces, no attached garages, no detached garages. I have that there's 2 suites, 4 total bedrooms. It's located on a plot of land that is 16,616 square feet on the Assiniboine River. Our 2025 value is pegged at 592,000. That's based on the April 1st, 2023 market value. I'm presenting the 4 same comps, so I'll try to roll through them because we've discussed them already. So they're not in Armstrong Point, but they're in close by neighborhoods: McMillan, Wellington, Wolseley, and North River Heights. Duplexes built in the 40s, 50s. Most of the comps are renovated other than comp 4 is dated like the subject. Fairly tight range in square footage. At the low end 1560, at the high end 2,028 square feet. Adjustments were provided for size. Basement finish, comps 2 and comps 4 had basement finish. We have full baths ranging between 1 and 2, half baths ranging between 0 and 2. Comp 1 has 2 extra showers, comp 4 has 1 extra shower. Comp 1, 2, and 3 have central air conditioning. No fireplaces on file, no attached garages. Note that comps 3 and 4 have older, multiple detached garages. All have 2 suites, all have between 4 and 5 rentable bedrooms. Land sizes varies quite a bit. The low end 3,226 square feet. That's for comp 4. And at the high end, we have comp 2, that's 7,190 square feet. So all of them would be more than half the size of the subject. We have the sales took place ranging between 2020 and 2022. Time adjusted sale prices range between 400 and, the actual sale prices range between 465,000 at the low end and a whopping 780 at the high end for comp number 1. Giving a global price, an all-encompassing price per square foot, range of 234 per square foot to 409 per square foot. Once you time adjust these sales to bring them to our reference date of April 1st, 2023, the time adjusted sale prices range between 438 at the low end and 802 at the high end. I have provided total adjusted sale prices, so once my adjustments are applied, I did want to note that comps 1, 2, and 3 are renovated while comp 4 is not. I did not provide adjustments for that, but I've put more weighting on comp number 4, which is in similar condition to the subject property. Once my adjustments are applied for that one, I was coming in at 482. So I'm making a recommendation similar to the neighboring property to drop the value to 480,000 and putting more weight on comp 4. Any
Okay.
questions at all?
Thank you very much. Ms. Zavarelli, the assessor has made a verbal recommendation of 480,000 for this property. Do you accept that?
No,
Okay, thank you very much. So we will proceed with any questions. So do you have any questions for the assessor?
I don't have any new questions.
No,
as-
so
as-
yeah,
as
similar,
noted.
we
Yeah.
can take as you, the information you provided previously.
Yeah.
Mr. Seelan, any questions?
No questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Ms. Verhoen, any questions?
None, Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you, and I do not have any questions, so Ms. Zaffarelli, please proceed with your presentation if you have anything new or you'd like to go over what you spoke to us before.
I'll just restate that I believe a fair value is 440,000, consistent with the additional support from realtors submitted today and the considerations for the relative incremental value of the lot given location close to core, higher level of homelessness, including homeless encampments, bookending the Armstrong's Point and significant homeless people along the riverbank, including behind that property, come up from the bank frequently. And so safety and security and crime is different from a number of the comparables, or I believe it to be different. And then the restrictions of the heritage on developing and fully realizing the value of the property. And so based on that, I believe that the $100,000 adjustment is too much, and suggest that it be adjusted to 60,000 and to give an effective value relative to Lipton of $440,000.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Goche, any questions?
I don't have any questions that haven't been
Okay.
addressed already. Thank you.
Ms. Verhoen, any questions?
None, thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Seelan, any questions?
No questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
And I have no questions. So Mr. Goche, any summation on this property?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, and Ms. Zavarelli, any summation?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us this morning. You'll receive our decision in the mail, and we appreciate you taking the time to share your information with us. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're gonna just let's take a 10-minute recess, so we'll come back at around 10:40, 22:11, and proceed with the rest of the items on the docket. Okay, thank you very much. I call the hearing back to order. And the next item on our agenda is number 10, 275 Hudson Street. So Mr. Goche, please read it into the record and proceed with your presentation when you're ready.
The subject property is roll number 0307.
Thank you very much. I call the hearing.
0551500, commonly referred to as 275 Hudson Street. It's located in the neighborhood of Maybank. Two-story duplex built in 1964. We have a small amount of effective age on it in 1974. We have 2,028 square feet of above grade living space. We have that the basement is full, but is only partially finished. I provided some clarity on that. We have 350 square feet of basement finish on file. We have 2 full baths, 1 half bath, 1 extra shower. We have central AC, no sunrooms, no attached garages, no detached garages. I have the number of suites as 2, and I have the number of rentable bedrooms as 6. It's located on a plot of land that's 4,516 square feet. It is backing a set of tracks, so we do have the rail line influence. The 2025 assessed value is pegged at 481,000. A reminder that that's based on an April 1st, 2023 market valuation date. Today I'm presenting 3 comparables. They're all 2-story duplexes built in the 50s and 60s. Note that most of the comps don't have any effective age, so they would be, in fairly original condition according to our records. Square footage I have between 1904 square feet and note that comps 1 and 2 both have exactly the same square footage as the subject property at 2,028 square feet, so it could be the same exact model of duplex. They have full basements. The basement finish ranges to having no basement finish for comp number 2. And having as much as 608 square feet for comp number 1. Full baths, they all have 2 full baths. Note that comp 3 has a half bath and another extra shower. They all have central air conditioning. Note that comp number 3 has a sunroom. Attached garages are not present in any of the comps. We have a newer multiple detached garage in comp number 3. Number of suites is 2 across the board. Rentable bedrooms for comp 1 and 2 are 6, same as the subject, and comp 3 has 5 rentable bedrooms. We'll land on comp 1 and 2, very similar to the subject, while comp 3 has a larger plot of land, 7,709 square feet. But as far as influences, it does have some negative influences. Those who know Jubilee, a very busy street, bus route, so medium traffic. Comp sold in 2020 and 2021. The range of the sales, the actual sale price range between 370,000 at the low end and 457 at the high end. Giving a global all-encompassing price per square foot range between 182 a square foot and 26 a square foot if we're rounding. Time adjusted sale price, so when we bring these older sales to our reference date of April 1st, 2023, comes in a range between 435 on the low end and 506 at the high end. I provided a total adjusted sale price, so once the adjustments are applied to the comps, I'm coming in at a pretty tight range actually, between 446 at the low end and 470 at the high end. My recommendation after adjusting out these comparables is to reduce the value to 450,000 as supported by the adjusted comparable sales.
Okay, thank you. I just realized, Mr. Horsberg, that we forgot to swear you in. So before I ask you about the recommendation by the assessor, I'm going to ask Ms. Picotto to sign you in, swear you in, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Carson Horsburgh.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And sorry, I mispronounced your name there. So, Mr. Horsburgh, the assessor has made a recommendation of $450,000. Do you accept that?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So recommendation has been accepted at $450,000. Okay, thank you. So we will move on to item number 11 on the docket, which is 299 Hudson Street. And Mr. Gauthier, please proceed when you're ready.
The subject property is roll number 0307054850, commonly referred to as 299 Hudson Street, located in the neighborhood of Maybank. It's a 2-story duplex built in 1964. We have it as fairly original condition. Living area is 2,028 square feet. It's got a full basement with no basement finish. 1 full bath. Sorry, there must be a mistake there too. Should be 2 full baths. We got 2 suites. We have no half baths. We have no extra showers. We have central air conditioning present. We have no sunrooms, no attached garages. We do have a detached garage, a newer detached garage. We have 2 suites present, 6 rentable bedrooms. Plot of land it's situated, the dwelling is situated on is 4,514 square feet, so typical for that area. Backing the rail. Our 2025 assessment is pegged at 464,000. A reminder that that's based on April 1st, 2023 market valuation date, presenting the same 3 comps I just presented. So I have 3 duplexes located, well, the 2 comps 1 and 2 are located in the same neighborhood, and I would definitely put more weighting on them. They're located in Maybank. A 3rd comp is located on Jubilee, so that's in the neighborhood of Point Road. They're all two-story duplexes built in the 50s and 60s. Very comparable in size. They all have full basements. As far as basement finish, note that comp 2 has no basement finish. I've adjusted comps 1 and 3 for the presence of basement finish. They all have 2 baths. Comp 3 has a half bath and an extra shower. They all have central AC. Comp 3 has a sunroom. As far as attached garages, none of the comps have attached garages. Comps 1 and 2 do not have newer or any detached garages, so adjustments have been provided for that. Note that comp 3 has a newer multiple detached garage, like the subject. Number of suites, 2 across the board. Rentable bedrooms, comps 1 and 2 have 6, same as the subject. I suspect it could be the same model duplex. Comp 3 has 5 rentable bedrooms. Land size for comps 1 and 2, similar to the subject, while comp 3 is on a larger plot of land, 7,709 square feet. Influences on comps 1 and 2 are rail, same as the subject. Comps 3 is on a bus route with medium traffic. Those who have been stuck on Jubilee might call it heavy traffic. Ask me how I know. Carson knows too. The sales all took place in 2020 and 2021. The sales prices range between $370 and $457 at the high end. Global prices per square feet, all encompassing, ranges between 182 a square foot to 225 a square foot. The time adjusted sale prices, so when bringing these comps to our reference date, coming in at a range between 435 and 506. Once adjustments are applied, the reconciled values coming in at a range of about 460 on the low end and 485 at the high end. My recommendation is to maintain the current assessed value of 464,000 for 2025 as supported by my evidence. Are there any questions at all?
Thank you very much. Mr. Horsburgh, do you have any questions? Oh, you're on mute.
I do not. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan, any questions?
No questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Ms. Verhoen, any questions?
Just the difference between the assessor's assessment for 299 Hudson at 464 and his recommendation to lower 275. I just wanted to know the difference.
So yeah, it's pretty simple. I'm glad you asked that question because I would be making the same recommendation, but there's a newer multiple attached garage that's factored in here. I typically, for a newer, I just priced out a garage, so for a newer one, I adjust about 25K. So I'm coming in, my range is between 460 and 485 once I adjust. Our model came in, so sometimes panel gets confused. This 464 is not my personal assessed value of my appraisal, it's our model's value. I'm just providing evidence to support our model's value. So my value could be slightly higher than our model's value. When I look at the consolidated adjusted values, I might be slightly higher, but I'm saying that our model's value is, and the difference between the last one and this one is basically the newer multiple detached garage. Otherwise, they're quite identical.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Assessor. No further questions.
Okay, thank you. And I do not have any questions. So Mr. Horsburgh, please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So beginning with the first page of my evidence disclosure, subject property is 299 Hudson Street with an assessed value of $464,000. MNP has valued the property, and we have determined the appropriate market value to be $433,000. Moving on to page 5 of my disclosure, we are basing the $433,000 value based on a comparable selling price on a per square foot basis of $213.54. Moving forward to page 6 of my disclosure, we have the assessment map of the property, as well as a satellite overview of the property. And moving on to page 7 through 9, we have exterior and interior photographs of the property. As we can see, the property is quite dated on the interior and has not been substantially renovated whatsoever. Moving on to page 10 of the disclosure, we have a number of comparable sales. It's from these sales that we derived the per square foot value of $213.54. Looking at 1014 Southwood, 1035 Royce Avenue, and 1016 Southwood Avenue, you can see that these are newly built duplexes, similar square footage to the subject property. And looking at the selling prices, they've sold between $445,000 to $485,000. The city assessment department seems to think that the subject property is worth as much as a newly built duplex. On page 11, we have a map showing where these comparable sales are located in relation to the subject property. And we can see that they're all very close to the subject property. It's also worth noting that the newly built duplexes do not share the same negative rail influence as the subject property. The best comparable for the subject property is 347 Hudson Street. Similar square footage to the subject property, similar year built, and that property sold in August 2022 for $410,000. That is where the $213.54 that is where that number comes from. So assessing the property at $228.80 per square foot is a bit more in line with what newly built duplexes are selling for in West Fort Garry. So it's my opinion and MNP's opinion that 347 Hudson Street is the best representation of what the property would sell for. And that's why in our valuation of the property, we're looking at the $213 a square foot value. So just on page 12, again, concluding that in applying the comparable selling price per square foot to the subject property, we arrive at the valuation of $433,000 $433,000. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Goche, any questions?
I have some serious questions. So I ran the square footage. I'm just looking at, you provided 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 comps. Your comp number 1 at 1014 Southwood, I have the square footage at 937 square foot. You have the square footage at 1920 square feet. So almost or double, I guess. 1035 Royce, I have 909 square feet, and you have 1774 square feet. 347 Hudson, I have 960 square feet. You have double that at 1920 square feet. 1016 Southwood, I have 937 square feet, and you have 1920 square feet. Can you clarify to this panel how you calculated the square footage of your comparables?
Yeah, the square footage is based on the livable space. So the 937, that's just one floor. I'm looking at what could be rented out, and that would include both floors for those duplexes. So that's why the numbers are a bit bigger.
So you're including the basement area in your square footage?
I'm including, yeah, the total livable space.
And that includes the basement area. So
for these by levels, if I could just answer the question.
The Winnipeg Real Estate Board, the City of Winnipeg, the AIC, so all these entities are quite clear on basement area not being counted as above grade living space. How are you, I guess, how did you justify, or what? Did you measure these properties, or you just decided to include the basement finish on these? And if you're gonna include the basement finish, then the subject property is not, in fact, 2,028 square feet. You gotta add 1,000 square feet to that. So how would you account for that?
So we're looking at the spaces that could be rented for these duplexes. They include an above grade living space and a below grade living space,
Except the subject has a basement finish. So if
which isn't living space for the subject
we're
property.
gonna start using basement finish, you have to.
Okay, let's stick to the questions.
So the question is can you confirm that you've added the base below grade area to your calculations of living area?
Yes, as they are livable space for the properties, I have included them.
Okay, so the other question I have is your property use codes for 1014 Southwood is showing Res DU. That's the city's code for a duplex. When I pull them up on our map and on our property data, I'm showing that they're secondary units. Same with 1035 Royce, secondary units, 1016 Southwood, secondary units, and they are not Res DUs or duplexes. They have secondary suites. My question is were you aware that when it comes to secondary units with property planning and development, there is a maximum square footage of 600 square feet in a secondary suite. Now, compared to your subject property that would have 1,000-ish square feet per suite, how would that impact the value if you've got a suite with, say, 1 bedroom and 600 square feet versus the subject that would have 2 3-bedroom units? How would that impact its ability to produce income?
I'm relying primarily on 347 Hudson Street. And looking at, and maybe it's a technicality that I didn't use the correct property use code in my table, but we're looking at relying primarily on 347 Hudson Street, looking at Southwood and Royce. These are newly built properties with 2 dwelling units. So to answer your question, I'm not relying on those properties as much. I'm pointing more towards 347 Hudson as having 2 dwelling units.
Okay, were you aware that 347 Hudson, so 960 square foot. So when you're using your price per square foot calculation, it's throwing things a bit out of whack, right?
I'm looking at the livable area. So that's where that square footage is coming from. They have 2 dwelling units, both with 960 square feet of livable area.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan, any questions?
No questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Ms. Verhoen, any questions?
None, thank you.
So I'm just wanting to clarify, the one that you've based your square footage on, is this a basement and a basement suite and a main floor suite, or is this?
It's a bi-level, so it's partially the basement
Okay,
suite.
it's a bi.
It's not
Okay.
a full basement, but
Okay.
it's partial. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's all the questions I had. Okay, Mr. Gauthier, do you have any summation on this property, please?
Yeah, just a basic summation. I feel like my comps number 1 and comps number 2 are located on the same street, same influence. I suspect they're the same exact model of duplex. And I would like this panel to put weighting on those 2 comparables versus the comparables that are presented to us by the appellant that, in my opinion, are not at all the same building types, year built. So we're comparing apples and pineapples. I'm giving you guys Macintosh apples with Macintosh apples here. So please take that in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Horsburgh, any summation?
Yeah, my summation, just again, I believe that we've provided, M&P has provided a solid foundation for what the market value is for the property. The assessor has taken 3 properties that sold for $370,000, $430,000, and $457,000. And the adjustments he's made are based on his interpretation of what the value should be. I think if the panel wants to place weight on the assessor's comparables, they should look at the sale prices and give less weight to the assessor's judgment as he's adjusted the sales prices.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning and providing your information. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Fran and Tristan, have we heard from the applicant for property number 3?
No, we have not.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to take a brief recess while the board considers what to do with this property. Thanks.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to call the hearing back to order. The panel has deliberated and decided that we will hear 319 Hudson. So, Mr. Gauthier, please, when you're ready, read it onto the record and give us your presentation.
The subject property is roll number 030705460000, commonly referred to as 319 Hudson Street, located in the neighborhood of Maybank. It's a 2-story duplex built in the 60s with a small amount of effective age at 1973. Once again, our 2,028 square feet seems to be a trend. It's got a full basement, no basement finish, 2 full baths. We have no half baths, no added showers. We have central AC, no sunrooms, no attached or detached garages. I have 2 suites, total rentable bedrooms 6. Standard plot of land for that street, 4,512 square feet, backing onto the tracks. 2025 assessed value is pegged at 456,000 based on an April 1st, 2023 market valuation date. Unfortunately, I only have 2 comps for the panel today. My third comp on the other ones you'll notice was 319 Hudson, which sold in August 2020. So to note that the subject property did sell for 370,000 back in August 2020. My 2 comps, obviously the better one is comp number 1, because it's located on Hudson in Maybank. Comp number 2 is on Jubilee. 2-story duplexes built in the 50s, 60s, roughly the same square footage, full basements. Note that both comps had basement finish, and that was accounted for in my adjustments. We have full baths ranging, or they both have 2 full baths. Comp 1 has 0 half baths, while comp 2 has a half bath. Comp 2 has an extra shower. They all got central AC. Note that comp 2 has a sunroom. No attached garages. Comp 3 has a multiple detached garage, to note that it is a newer multiple detached garage. Both comps have 2 suites. Rentable bedrooms for comp 1 is 6, same as subject. Comp 2 is 5. Land on comp 1, very similar to subject. Comp 2, larger plot of land, 7,709 square feet. Negative influences, so comp 1, rail like the subject. We got bus, medium traffic for Jubilee. Comp sold in 2020 and 2021. Comp 1 sold for 457, comp 2 for 430, translating to a price per square foot, a global price per square foot. Oddly enough, identical. 25, 26 a square foot, depending if you want to round. Time adjusted sale price for comp 1 is 478, comp 2 506. Total adjusted sale price once adjustments are factored in, pretty tight range, 449,000 for comp 2 and 460,000 for comp 1. My recommendation is to maintain the current assessed value of 456,000. Note that the owner advised ATD that one of the suites was renovated after the 2020 purchase. Note the time adjusted sale price of the subject property is 435,000 without factoring the renovations. Also, the owner advised ATD that they obtained an appraisal at the time of purchase for 380,000. I don't have that appraisal, but just something that they notified us. So we did send a questionnaire regarding the sale, and it was filled out. I don't remember if I attached it or not. Yes, I did attach it, so you can refer if any of you are curious what it looks like. I'd send you one of these questionnaires. Basically, we ask questions about the sale. Typically, we'll do this on private sales. we're unsure of the circumstances. We want to make sure if it's a good sale that we can add in our model. It's not like father sold to son type of sale, just arm length. Maybe an appraisal was done. So these are the type of questions that we ask to clarify a sale. We don't always get them back, but it's nice when we do. And there's some details there if you want to go through that. But yeah, any questions at all?
Thank you. Ms. Verhoen, any questions?
None, Madam Chair, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Seelan, any questions?
No questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
And I do not have any questions, so I'm assuming you don't need a summation since we just heard your presentation.
Pretty clear, no, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. We have now heard all of the items that were on our docket for this morning, so this meeting is now adjourned. And thank you very much, Mr. Gauthier, for your presentation and your attendance.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.